This is the Brilliantly Branded podcast, a safe place to have a voice and talk about branding and all the reasons that bring a brand to be brilliantly branded. I am your host, Maria Lucia Romero, a woman empowering other women, and I am welcoming you to this journey of learning and inspiration to build awareness around the world of business and the world of brands. This is the Brilliantly Branded podcast. In our episode today, we have an inspiring entrepreneur who took the leap from the corporate world to startup success. We talk about how she overcame the challenges of start a new journey and how her story can motivate women everywhere. She is Aditi Singh from Wine Chain, who shared with us her learnings during her journey as an entrepreneur, talking about the importance of recognizing the signals that you start to receive early on to have a plan in mind in case you want to avoid them to happen. We talk about funding and investors as well, and the power of knowing when to continue or when to change during the fundraising process. She recognizes as well the importance of building a personal brand and be true to yourself, having an effective communication for gaining investors and customers' trust. So please grab a cup of coffee or tea and remember that in the Brilliantly Branded podcast you can be inspired and gain value insights from the experiences of remarkable entrepreneurs. Welcome! So, welcome to the Brilliantly Branded podcast again. Here, remember that you can learn all the things that are going to connect in you across these different topics that are related with branding and especially with women empowerment. As well as not just saying we are doing this or we are doing that, is actually what are the actions that we are taking to really support between us and really give this uplift between us. So I wanted to tell you a story that happened to me yesterday, actually, in an amazing event here in Luxembourg. And I received a message from an inspirational woman. She's Sasha Bailey. She is actually working in Lux Innovation, and she wanted to use a message to spread a voice. And her words was really touching my heart because this community, the Brilliantly Branded community, is starting to have this as a why. And actually, she was encouraging all of us to challenge ourselves and reflect on how we sometimes have some attitudes or mindsets that certainly and unconsciously make the road more difficult for other women. So her call was actually to observe ourselves, our own behaviors, not only the men, but us as a women, to really realize if this is something that we are doing that are putting actually these barriers on the things that we are doing together. So I completely agree, and I am going 100% with her to spread this message and to really bring that as a part of the why of this community and the podcast as well. So our guest today is a woman that have been part of the corporate world for a long time. And now she decides to change their hat and applying all this experience of this amazing world in her own entrepreneur venture. So I'm going to invite Aditi and I'm going to ask her, please, to introduce herself and give a warm welcome. Welcome, Aditi, and please, could you introduce yourself?
Thank you, Maria Lucia, for having me on your amazing podcast series. So, hi, everyone. I am Aditi Singh. And as Maria mentioned, I spent a lot of time, like 15 plus years in a corporate world. I spent most of that time at Amazon. I joined the company when it was still more acting like a startup itself. And it was in the early stages of growth, and I've seen that growing. So I've been very fortunate to have learned with some of the most brilliant people out there. and take all that learning to be in my own startup right now, which is Wine Chain. So Wine Chain is our startup where we are connecting the world of fine wines to people who enjoy drinking those wines. We're making them more accessible. And I'm very happy to share my journey and my experiences with the bigger community in any way that it can help.
Yeah, thank you, Aditi. And actually, yes, I haven't mentioned what is the name of your venture and what is this is the purpose. And One Chain, it was actually the reason why it took my attention, and I was seeing you as an inspiration because jump into this world, a world that you are coming from Amazon, that is a big marketplace, but now. Building your venture and bringing this knowledge and this experience to build it up and build it a brand, the Wine Chain brand. So one of the questions that I wanted to ask you is about what was those pivotal moments that led you to take this leap, to jump, and how did you face these challenges of this transition from the corporate world to the entrepreneurship world?
Yeah, it's funny because I get that question a lot, like what was that time where you made that decision? And I can never remember that time. So for me, it's been more a journey, and I think for a lot of us, it's more a journey that brings us to a certain destination. So, like I mentioned, I joined Amazon and it was still in the very early days, and I really enjoyed building things, and that's been one thing that's been common throughout my career. And every time, like I've built something and it gets into a maintenance mode, I get out of it and I get bored. So when I got a couple of other opportunities within the company to create new programs, and some of the most recent programs that I built was actually some accelerator programs for startups. It's a privilege to do that from a big company because you have the comfort of a big company, but you get the energy of the entrepreneurs to engage with. And that actually was a big shift in my mindset where it made it very clear to me that I no longer just want to climb up the corporate ladder, but I want to build something from scratch and, get that joy out of it and see that grow. And, I'm not somebody who has like 1,000 different ideas and then I get into it. Like I'm quite self-critical, I think, like most women are of themselves. But then I was talking about this opportunity with the co-founders who also have a lot of experience, who are fine enthusiasts themselves. And it just seemed like everything that I had learned would be perfect to make this successful. And I just took that leap.
Yeah, exactly. You mentioned something important, all those things that you have learned. And we learn a lot from the corporate world that is giving us a lot of foundation, a lot of structure, that it was my personal experience as well. And this time I want to ask you, what are the things that you can share with us and with our community related with this advice that will you give to other women considering a similar journey?
Yeah, I think there's so many things that I learned throughout this journey. There's so much that I can share. But I think there are a couple of things that I felt were most helpful for me. And I see that in a lot of my other friends and other women entrepreneurs as well. The first thing is just being bold and not I think it's maybe I'm generalizing it too much, but when I see like my friends, my husband as well, I think for sometimes for men it comes naturally to be more bullish, more risk taking, and sometimes we can be a little risk averse. Obviously, there are all kinds of people everywhere, but for me I was fortunate to have a lot of strong mentors, a lot of strong support for my family to take that step. Not everybody has that, so my one advice will be like be bold. If you have an idea, if you want to do something, there is nothing to lose by doing
Go
it.
for it.
Go
Go
for
for
it.
it.
Ask support. I think 9 out of 10 times when I've asked for help, I have received it. People are there to help. Obviously, people are not going to go out of their way all the time, but ask for help. Like, don't hesitate. Be bold. Just do it.
Well, ask for help. It was one of the things that I have been dealing with. And part of the growing inner self, it have been demonstrated to myself something like you can ask for help. It's not
Yeah.
always that you can do everything I mean, we normally think that, we can do everything, but we are not going to ask for help. And asking for help, as you well said, and thank you, Aditi, for share that, because asking for help is one of the things that we really need to make aware about that, because otherwise we are not going to go for the things, and we are not going to get what we need and we want, because we always think, well, this is not something that I'm going to go and ask.
Absolutely. And there is literally nothing to lose. Like, people are going to be still your friends. The worst thing
Yeah.
is they will say no, which puts you in the same situation you are now, anyways. So it can only improve. There's nothing to lose by asking.
Yeah, you are completely right, Aditi. And going to the other curiosity that I have related with you is when you change from the corporate world and going to build your brand, of course, part of the brand as well as your personal brand. This personal branding that often is this critical moment where you are or need to really position yourself as an expert on the things that you are doing. So how you have been working on it and how you have been building this up, because I think that this is one of the challenges that we are facing and we don't know how to manage. So more than happy to hear how you have been doing that.
I'm still very much on that journey, nowhere where I want to be. But I mean, for every entrepreneur and for every female entrepreneur as well, when you start a company or startup or a business, that has zero brand value. The only thing is your own brand. That's the only way customers will recognize. That's the only way like investors will recognize. Investors will invest in your brand, not the company brand in the beginning. And I think it's really, really important to clarify that and have a very powerful impression when you're talking about your company, when you're talking about yourself, when you're talking any opportunity that you get. And I think for personal branding, there are a couple of things that I realize sometimes a little bit too late. One is you should always think about what will people remember you for after this conversation. Most of the times, it's not the words that you use, but it's either the message that you communicate, or they remember you, oh, this person was so jovial, or this person was so, sad, or this person was so energetic. And that is the personal brand. And I think it's good to deliberate a little bit what do you want people to remember you by, and by and by that builds that brand. The second thing is it has to be true to yourself. I've tried to fake it sometimes and it doesn't work. It can work for a meeting or
I
two,
love it. Yeah.
but it you can't build a brand out
It's
of
not
it.
sustainable. It's not sustainable
It's
at
not.
all.
It's not. So you have to be true to yourself. And I'll give you a very personal example. I'm an introvert by nature, so it doesn't come naturally to me to go out and put myself out there and speak openly. Like, if you put me in the middle of a networking room, I can talk to people one to one. But, I will be very hesitant to approach people. And I really try to put myself out of the comfort zone when I'm giving public speeches. I try to come across as this person, who's very boisterous, but it doesn't work for me. So now I've embraced this thing, and that's how I present. And there are positives to that as well. Like, people see that I'm a good listener, I have the ability to hold a conversation in a way that's different from the person that I was trying to be. So I think that being true to yourself is a very, very important part of your own brand.
Yeah, that's you mentioned here two things that I wanted to address. And one of those is one important. I guess that you have been raising funds for your startup or your venture. And you mentioned something key, and is investors are investing in the persona, not or in the personal brand, not in the brand of the company as well, because you are part of the team. So how you can explain us a little bit more about that topic?
Yeah. So any early stage investor will be looking for two things. One is, does this idea make sense? Does it have some grounds? Is there, like, all the business parts of it? Is there a need for this? Can this make money? Which is good. That's the first clearance. But then their decision whether they want to invest money or not, like 90% of that is the founder. because a good idea can be executed badly and it goes bust, or you could have an average idea, but then you're so good at listening to your customers, pivoting, iterating, that you make a really, really, really successful business out of it. And there's so many examples all around us, right? I love to give this example of Apple. A lot of products that you see, they're not groundbreaking innovation from the perspective that like it's never been done before. They just do it better. So I think like as an investor, when you're talking to investors, they will invest in you. They will make sure that the idea makes sense, but they will invest in you. And that is really, really important. If the investors don't feel that they can trust the founder, 9 out of 10 startups need to iterate or pivot because the markets change or the customers think differently from what you thought, or there are more ideas that you come up with, and that is only possible if you are communicating yourselves as a solid founder. So it's very important.
Yeah. Is that, this topic is something like we can talk and talk and talk about that and bringing more things to the table, because actually is how we as a women are going and asking for funds, and how we are doing that, and how we are in certain way having all this information about how we are going to sell ourselves in order to generate this trust with the investor, this trust that will really make us and give us the power to and the tools to grow our venture. So very important point
Absolutely.
that you touch, and I invite and encourage all the listeners of the podcast that contacting you if they wanted to know more, because I think it's a lot of valuable information that you can share actually to empower others to go for it, and how these key things are coming and be part of the steps that you have to follow on the key things that you need to put it on place. So the
Absolutely,
other
I'll be
thing,
happy to.
thank you, Aditi. The other thing you was talking about, this comfort zone. And when we have been part of the corporate world, we are in this comfort zone. It's being in a corporate world, even when it's so hard, because I was there, is a kind of a comfort zone. But when you really decide to leave that and going to take another challenges, so probably what you need is a change of mindset, right?
Mhm.
And changing this mindset, I think it was something that you did. So how women can really change their mindset in order for them to take the responsibility and say, I'm going for it with confidence, and how are these next steps, if you can share that with us?
Yeah, I think for me personally, whenever I've thought about doing that, and even in the early days, we're still early days, there are always challenges, and you always feel like, did I make the right decision? Did I do the right thing? Because nothing is stable now, and everything can change overnight, right? But I think a couple of things that helped me first is, like I mentioned initially, just reaching out to people and talking to them. So whenever I've had self doubts, I created for myself a network of mentors who are the three people. They are like role models who I consider very successful, who I trust very much for their advice. And I really strongly encourage everybody to find these people. It could be anybody, your friend, your family, your colleague, your ex-boss, somebody else who you've met and you really want to learn from. And I would like attribute a lot of my change of this mindset to those people, because I was full of doubts. Can I do this? Should I do this? Will that mean that I have financial instability? How will I manage this? What if I never get a job again? What if it's completely unsuccessful? Am I making my life too hard by taking this step? And it really helps when somebody else can show you different perspectives to help you shape your thoughts
Yeah.
in the right direction.
Yeah, it's super important actually. This part of mentoring, coaching, the part of go and learn from other experiences. That is basically part of the things that we are doing across the Brilliantly Branded podcast, where I am actually bringing all these people that are talking about their experience and how others can learn from that. And learn from that means that in your journey, probably you have been facing a lot of challenges. And I want you to share with us probably one of those unexpected things that you have been like, well, I have everything under control. And then this challenge came, this challenge arrived, and really make me or pivot or change or something in your journey. That if you have had one of those challenges, I would love you to share one of those with us, and what was the learnings from that.
I'm actually going through one right now. So I
Okay.
think as a startup, you come up with an idea and you start with a certain thing, right? And then you go live and you're like super happy, and then every day after that is honestly like a new learning and a new challenge, and you need to adapt, you need to react very very quickly. um I think, and I will share like my current challenge. So I won't go too much into the details of my startup and company, but basically we are at a point where we have to make certain decisions on how we attract customers, how we build our team together and things like that. And this is never a good or an easy decision for anybody in a startup, right? So when you have to make hard pivots or hard decisions, or change direction significantly, iterating is easier. You try something, you adapt, but when you have to change a significant direction, it's hard. And I think one thing that in hindsight I realized is that I was getting those signals earlier, but I took too long. And that is a learning that I will
Mm.
definitely not, like a mistake that I would definitely not make again. So I think when as an entrepreneur you go through these challenging times, it could be anything. It could be because maybe you're not getting funding and you need to figure out how to bootstrap your idea. It could be that you're not able to hire the right people, and like everybody goes through pretty much all of these challenges. Or it could be that you need to do a hard pivot for your startup, or it could be like anything. I think all these things, um, one learning that I had is you should look for those signals that you start to receive early on, and you don't always need to react to everything that you receive, but it's helpful to have a plan in mind, right? Like if I have these signals, let me put some sort of a timeline in mind where I should think about things sooner and not wait for them to happen. It's the same for funding as well. When you're talking to investors and things, you can't continue to raise funds indefinitely. It's good to have some early signals. Does this raise interest? Does this not raise interest? What is like my time boxing thing? It's the same for like customer feedback. It's always good. I think one of the, sorry, I'm digressing here a little bit, but one of the most difficult
Yeah.
things for a startup is to know when to continue and when to change or give up. You
Pivot.
have good examples on both sides, and it's a very very customized thing for every startup. And I think like deliberating, just being aware of it and deliberating on that, for me itself is a first very 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 big step.
So there is a two amazing takeaways there, and it says one is like listening to all those signals that you are receiving in the moment that you are receiving, but more than that, actually, to don't be just stick on your idea and in love of your idea that you are not going to be able to pivot or move with this and give it a different yeah, a different overview, really shifting that because it's not working or this is not really feeling what the market is needing. So if you say that you haven't listened to those signals, but my question there is, do you think that probably intuition is playing a big role on that?
I think so. There are some times where, so I'm a very analytical person by nature, and my time in the corporate life has also groomed me to be something like that. But there are always things that I cannot explain. Like, it seems like it seems like the right thing. I have no data to prove it. I have no precedence to prove it, but it seems like the thing I should do. But there's so much self-doubt that comes after that. Yeah, but if there is no data to prove it or there is no precedence, there has to be a right thing. A lot of times it ends up being the right thing. So I think you have to be conscious of what that voice is telling you and listen to that voice as well.
Yeah, exactly. I think that sometimes we think that this is the holistic side of the business, when you are listening to the intuition and when you are doing things because you don't have numbers, you don't have explanations, as you will say it. But
Yeah.
for me, it's more connecting from the source in the way that you need that. This is really something that really empowers us as a women, men, I mean, in gender in general. And this is how we can listen into that voice and give those steps. All, of course, always thinking that there is some tools that are ready or not to make that decision to really is the right time. So I'm feeling this, but what are the things that I am having available to do that? So
Yeah.
actually, let go and going with the flow is part of the things that really make you like a shape in this role that it will be probably making your life as an entrepreneur more easier. And I'm talking from myself and from my experience. And the other thing that you mentioned, it was talking about the team. I mean, building the teams is something very key because you need to be surrounded by people that is adding value. So you pay for all those people that is coming and adding value to you and yeah, helping you to really put this venture to the succeed. And women in this environment have been playing a big role in adding value in many ways, as well men. But I wanted to refer to women specifically because all the support that we need right now to really be part of those ventures and those initiatives. So are there any specific initiatives or experiences that you would like to share with us related with that topic?
So I think whenever I've built a team, one thing I've always noticed versus some of my male colleagues is it was always easier for me to hire women in my team. And I think a little bit of that is like gravity, where, as women, you also like to see other women as role models so you can learn from. And the two most difficult things for a startup, which is more difficult than raising funds, is finding customers, the early customers, and hiring the right team. Because when you're a small startup team, even one wrong hire can cost you a lot of time, effort, money, and it can be the difference between a successful startup and not. And my own startup, every startup that I've ever spoken to has this challenge. So when you're a startup, you obviously want to hire the best people. It doesn't matter what their background is, it doesn't matter what they are, they should be able to add value to your company. But I think there is one more element that during my conversations, I find this as a feedback coming back to me, which is when I go and talk to potential candidates, and a lot of times there are, two extreme ends of candidates, either people who are very fresh out of college and, they want that first experience, or people who have spent 20 years in the corporate world, they're bored of it and they want to do something. But both dimensions, when I'm talking to potential candidates, there's this feedback that, hey, like this was a really bold move for you, or hey, this is a very inspiring thing. And it's not just for me, it's something that I hear from a lot of my friends and colleagues when they are talking about, their own startup to other people. So I think hiring is obviously very important, but you also have to remember when you're hiring, you're also inspiring other people. So it doesn't matter what your final decision is or what their final decision is. That conversation has already helped you inspire somebody else.
Yeah, and talking about inspiring a big role model, do you see yourself as a role model and an inspiring person?
Well, I hope I inspire some people to achieve what they want to achieve. I mean, everybody has a different journey and everybody has different challenges. But if by sharing my learnings, my challenges, I feel like even if it can inspire one, two, or a few people, um, that's very rewarding. It's very fulfilling, and I hope, like, I encourage more and more people to share their journeys, to share their learnings with others, because that's how you realize you're not alone. There are others who have faced some of these challenges, and you can be inspired from others as well.
Yeah, thank you, Aditi, for sharing this with us. And part of the things that I think inspire others is to realize what was your journey and how you have been dealing with that. And those stories, I think, as that the stories that you want to show in order for really get these like a fast learnings that the people can really take and learn fast. And I would like you, if you want to share with us one of those moments that really is a moment that the people can say, do you know, that is something that I heard that someone had as experience that really made me grow and made me learn something in the business world. Could you share
Mhm.
one of those with us?
I think one of my most common learnings throughout my life, I would say, personal and business, is that it's a very soft and personal topic, but it's that people will always try to box you in what you can do, what you should do, what you're capable of doing, or just, like what is acceptable around you. As an example, I come from a fairly conservative community. I was very fortunate to have, very both parents myself, but um, it's a theme that I realized very early on in my career, and that has really helped me in my career, because every time I was told by my leadership or by somebody else, like, this is too much of a stretch for you, I took that in the positive way and said, I'm going to do it because I want to do it, and I will give it my best, and then we'll see what happens. So I feel like, and this is true for everybody. Everybody will always try to box you based on their own impressions, based on their own learnings and how they look at things as well. But I think it's really important to have that self reliance and be very aware of what you want to do, what you, how much you think you can stretch yourself, and go a little bit beyond.
Yeah.
Don't be limited by your own limits, and definitely don't be limited by what people around you, well-meaning people, friends, family, but it's their perspective. It doesn't define your life. It doesn't define how your colleagues or how your leaders think about you. It doesn't define what you're capable of.
Yeah, exactly. That is true. And just to start to wrap up this amazing interview, Aditi, you mentioned during our interview something that I want to ask you, and you said, well, now we are in a challenging moment, and as we are a community of supporters, there is something that we as a community can do for you.
Oh, that's so nice. Well, I think for starters, this conversation has already helped a lot, because it made me reflect and remind myself of all the strengths that has brought me to this point. So it is already a very, very good help, Maria. But I will definitely be more in connected with you.
Yeah, for sure.
A startup can use any help that they can get. But most of all, to you and to everybody, if you want to buy a nice bottle of fine wine, please
Yeah.
visit winechain.co.
Yeah, exactly. That was the point, actually, because we haven't talking about you and your venture. I think is very important, and our support to your venture is another thing that we can collaborate and we be part of and learned about that, because all the things about the NFTs and about how you are moving your business and all the chain and all the things are details that for me is for the moment an unknowable world. I don't have any details. I am need to learn a lot still, but I'm more than happy to share that with our community and say, please go and learn about that and live the experience to buy and to approach that in your platform.
There are some
So,
really, really incredible wines on our platform. So you don't have to know about NFTs or blockchain or anything. You just go and try a nice wine. That's it.
wow, that is amazing, and thank you for clarifying that, because one of the things is, well, if I don't know how I'm going to approach that, but if it's just as simple as it's a marketplace where I can go and buy wine, well, that is simple. It's amazing. And anyways, the link to your website is going to be in the description of this episode, So
Oh,
for
thank
people
you.
to come and go in and see as well your LinkedIn contact for people that wanted to contacting you and probably digging a little bit more about your experience as an entrepreneur with your venture, because I think it's a lot of information that we can start to share in order to give to others the tool or the necessary tools to don't repeat the same mistake and learn from others. That will really enlighten us and enhance all our journey. So
Absolutely. I also, I talk a lot about my own experiences and journey and what I do. I also mentor startups at Founders Institute in Luxembourg. I'm also now attached with Fit for Start. So um, anybody who has any questions, any support that I can give to you, it's something that I don't make money out of, but I just do it because it gives me a lot of fulfillment. I'll be
yeah.
very happy to. So do not hesitate to approach.
Thank you very much, Aditi. I am so happy with this interview. It's give a lot of value. That is the purpose of the Brilliantly Branded podcast and the Brilliantly Branded community. So thank you very much for being here, Aditi. And I hope to see you in the startup ecosystem soon and sharing many other different experiences together.
Thank you too, Maria Lucia, and we will meet again very soon. Thank you
For
very
sure.
much.
No, thank you.
We hope you have been inspired by this content and join us for future episodes of the Brilliantly Branded podcast. We will continue exploring the power of branding and the stories behind successful brands. And remember, if you know a woman who has built a successful brand with a unique approach and a story to share, please refer them to our podcast. We would love to learn from their experiences and share their story with our listeners. Stay tuned for more episodes of Brilliantly Branded, and don't forget to follow us on Instagram, LinkedIn, on our YouTube channel for more branding insights and women empowerment. Until the next episode, ciao ciao.